Happy Tuesday, everyone. I wanted to make another product market fit video, and this is targeting civilian EMS providers. I have in front of me a copy of the Denver Metro EMS Medical Directors Protocol on burn injuries, burn care. And that's medical directors, that's plural, that's multiple physicians, multiple EMS specialists, and they get together a couple times a year. And they review all their medical practices to get the most relevant, the most data-driven, and the most practical interventions out there to their providers. Very early on in this document, it says we should be able to assess the extent and the severity of a given burn. So on the back of the emergency dermal kit, man, rule of nines, and then the severity guide right here. And I know if you work in burn care day in, day out, considering this sounds very rudimentary, but I've talked about this before. You know, we think about different ways of administering oxygen all the way down to a surgical crike. We talk about different interventions in a patient's thorax. We talk about different ways to reset a cardiac dysrhythmia. You know, we practice high potency medicine on occasion. And so something like this, it's just not always going to be on the forefront of the mind. So we think there's a lot of value in just having it printed on the back of a durable yet flexible case. After that, once we start talking about wound care practices, it says protect a patient from hypothermia, dress burns with dry, sterile dressings. Cool and moist dressings have been removed altogether. So let's talk about the hypothermia part. Most folks are going to use woven gauze, loose and bulky dressing. Okay, that's kind of interesting. You can see that you can see through it. So that doesn't really protect from evaporative cooling, but even worse than that, when you park it directly atop an oozing wound bed, it's just going to park that. It's going to absorb it in this cotton, and it's going to park that cold saturated dressing on top of a potentially hypothermia prone patient's flesh. That's not good for them in the early outset. It's not good for them at any point, but it's certainly not good for them in the early outset of their care. With regards to dry and sterile dressings, I'll talk about sterility. Again, this is porous. Okay, this doesn't protect from pathogens. Pathogens can get right through there. And yeah, anyone who's ever spent any time on a truck knows all these devices that are wrapped with Tyvek, they get perforated during the day in, day out truck checks. So your burn sheet, your gauze, whatever, it gets perforated. Okay, so there's not much sterility there, not to mention the underlying concept. I mean, that's great for mass hemorrhage control to pack a wound, but it's not good for sterility and protecting like an infection-prone patient. So why is the emergency dermal solutions approach to wound care better? Well, we have this saying, white goes to wound, blue goes to you. We sterilize all of our devices to where that interior white layer is a sterile layer. That's the only thing that we want to touch, that really delicate flesh. Okay, it is sterile, non-adherent, and absorbent. The blue is a protective exterior, and we have multiple layers to protect from hypothermia. It goes on in a fraction of the amount of time. Here's kind of a challenge I have for civilian EMS folks. Go get one of your taller coworkers and just get all the gauze that you keep in a jump kit, get all the gauze that you keep in the back of the truck, and just try and wrap his or her extremities all the way down to the digits and see how protected that is and see how long it takes. And then start looking at our demo videos and say, hey, that's a heck of a lot more efficient approach to this. So again, we seem to be the most obvious thing out there for a patient population that suffers considerably. Have a good day.